Today we are going to paint a barn and a silo in watercolor. Many people have been asking me about creating a video and posting it online. So today I decided I'll give it a try. It's a little bit difficult to record video and paint at the same time. I tried speaking while painting, but that didn't turn out very well. So I'm now recording the audio once more. So here you can see that I've turned the paper backside and I'm wetting it. Now this serves two purposes, and you will see that. My room, as you know, is really very warm because of the halogens all around me, and also because it's winter time and all my heaters are operating at full power. That will make my paper dry very quickly. So I wetted the backside to keep the paper moist, and also as I lay it flat on the table, the water acts like a glue and it keeps it fixed to the table. That way the paper is not going to buckle. And now I turn my attention to the front side. I start wetting the sky area with a 1.5 inch flat brush, and the black color that you see on the sketch is actually the masking fluid. I've applied the masking fluid to prevent the sky color getting onto the wall and roof of the barn and silo. Okay, so I think that's quite enough. So I'm just damping the paper because I'm going to paint wet on wet. I think that's fairly nice. Now we put a mixture of rose madder and Naples yellow close to the horizon, and as I go up I decrease the intensity of the color, but I try to avoid all these hard edges. And you can see because the paper is moist, I am not getting those hard edges. Paints are diffusing very nicely. I'll pull this color a little bit further up. That's nice. Look how bright this guy is. So I'm done with the Naples yellow color, and now I have started to apply a mixture of ultramarine blue and cobalt blue from the top. And as I go down, I intentionally leave some yellow regions which will give an impression of cloud. Then as I'm going down, I'm decreasing the intensity of the black color, of the bluish color, by mixing more and more water. So close to the horizon I want more of yellowish color, and close to the top I want darker colors. That's look good. And now I apply a mixture of more intense violet color mixed with ultramarine blue and burnt sienna, and generally I try to create a vignetting effect in which I actually make the corners dark. So here you can see that I'm applying darker color towards the corner. That's one way of preventing a viewer's eye from moving out of the painting. It also creates a nice eye flow. It's trying to bring the viewer's eye towards the subject. Okay, you can see how blue, yellow and purple colors are diffusing and creating very smooth transitions. And because I have masked the roof and wall of the barn and the silo, I can be a little bit more casual in my approach. Well, I do not have any fear of creating a mess on this barn roof. Okay, and then I let it dry. Probably I should put a little bit darker color on the top. Yes, that looks better. Actually, the watercolor, it dries 2 shades lighter. So this, I mean, once this painting is dry, it will not look the same way it's looking now. It will get lighter because the water evaporates and then it makes all the colors dull. So I'm just imagining what kind of color I want in the end product, and I'm trying to make it darker. Okay, now close to the horizon, while it is still moist, I'm introducing some purplish color, grayed by adding a tinge of viridian green. And since the background is still wet, it diffuses nicely, giving an impression of faraway bushes and trees. You do not want any hard edge. That's better. That's better. Now you see, trees are generally green in color, but I'm painting them bluish and purplish in tone, and that is because as things recede from us, they tend to be cooler in color, less intense in color, and that's exactly how we create depth in our paintings. Well, now as I said, I do not want any hard edges, so I'm just trying to make the transition from the faraway trees to the closer fields is smoother. Okay, and now you can see that the lower side of the paper was buckling, so I spray some water and lay it flat. So that is one trick that you should know, otherwise you'll be having a tough time painting with watercolors. Now I leave the painting to dry, and once it's dry, I again switch to my 1.5-inch flat brush and wet the foreground. You see that, I mean, I'm using wet on wet technique throughout this stage. We are not yet done with the first stage. The first stage is when the whole of the paper is covered with some color or the other. So I'm again wetting foreground. I think that is fairly damp now, and then we introduce some lemon yellow mixed with a little bit of purple color, just to gray it or reduce its intensity, because this is a ground which is far away from us, so it should not be very intense. Yes, I think that is fairly nice. Now as I come closer, I increase the intensity, and you can increase the intensity by adding more pigments. So you can see I add a little bit more pigment and it gets more intense, even higher intensity. And yeah, I forgot to mask these hay bales, so I'll have to be careful while painting around these hay bales. Okay. And make sure that when you are painting on the left side, you can complete the remaining part of the foreground on the right side with the same brush, otherwise you will have a mismatch of the color. Okay, yeah, now I think we will have to increase the intensity a little bit more, because we have come a lot closer now. Okay, yeah, yeah, look how that is looking. Okay, it's much brighter, much brighter. And actually it is not lemon yellow, it's lemon yellow mixed with a little bit of raw sienna, which is a kind of beautiful color, and of course burnt sienna. I'll be adding a little bit more burnt sienna here. The burnt sienna has a lot of red in it, and that's exactly what we want. This is the red, yellow and pink that makes a color warmer, and things which are closer to us appear warmer, and as that object recedes from us, it gets cooler and cooler in color. So you see I'm adding more of burnt sienna, and okay, I take water again. I do not need these sharp edges, so I have to go and make sure that I do not create any hard edge still. Okay, that's fine. And now if I introduce a color, it will diffuse and create a very nice soft effects. Okay, I get closer. I think I will increase the intensity a little bit more, maybe adding burnt sienna would be a good idea. Yes, yes, you can see it gets warmer, a little bit warmer. And close to the corner I said I want to create a vignetting effect, so you'll see that I'll be adding more of burnt sienna, purple and darker tones. Yes, it gets darker, you can see. Yes, a little more intense. More intense. You see the water has evaporated, so I'm getting a few hard edges, but that's fine. Okay, so I throw in some darker tones. Okay, you see it looks fairly dark now, but once water evaporates it will get lighter, 2 shades lighter. So what should I do? Yes, 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 you got it. I will introduce a darker color than I want to finally have in this painting. And by the way, I'm using a number 4 sable hair brush for these strokes. That's better. You see, now this is a mixture of ultramarine blue, burnt sienna and some purple. And make sure that you do not mix more than 2 colors on the palette, because that creates mud. I do not want that. If you have followed this painting closely, you'd have realized that I generally put a mixture of 2 colors on the paper and then allow them to mix on their own. If I mix more than 2 colors on the palette, it gets grayer. I mean, you mix any 3 color on the palette and see what you get. The end result is always some kind of a gray. Okay, hay bell, that is hay bell. So I think it should be like a raw sienna to begin with. Yeah, so I'm wetting the area. I think that's fine. I should probably pull out all these masks. Okay, I should apologize for something. I had to stop the camera and then turn the painting backside and dried these regions on which masks were applied using a hair dryer. Now under normal condition I would like all my paintings to dry naturally, but here, since I'm creating a video, I had to speed up things. I didn't see this process of drying the painting with a hair dryer, but maybe I will be recording a small video sometime later. So be careful to pull these masking fluid. It's really interesting. When I was a child, I used to put put my hands in glues and then let it dry, and then I'll try to remove that, and I found that really fascinating. I'll do that for hours. So needless to say that I really enjoyed it today, this process. You see how the edges are so crisp and fine and nice. Yes. I mean, I remove these masks with my finger, but sometimes it's much better to use a putty rubber to take them off. And make sure that you do not leave even a small bit of these masks. Yep, you see, I was a little bit lazy in applying this masking fluid, so you can see that some of the colors have seeped through this mask, but that's not a big problem. I do not want it crisp. I will be painting some dark colors on top of that, so it's not such a big problem. Okay, look how cool it looks. Yeah. By mistake, I removed the masks from the window frames. That was not a good idea. Okay, we want that crisp white in the final stage, so we will not remove it now. Okay, now with a half-inch flat brush, I'm damping the wall of the barn, and then with some shades of burnt sienna, I will make some flat strokes. Now you can notice that in my sketch I have certain wood panels which are aligned horizontally and some of them are vertically. So I drop in color. You see, it's pure burnt sienna, and then I drop in some other color. Yeah, a little bit of cobalt blue mixed with burnt sienna, and they are now diffusing into each other. And you see the stroke, the vertical stroke or the horizontal stroke, they are not very even. That's very important. We do not want even strokes. There should be some variation within each stroke. Okay, now it's a little bit difficult to do it on camera, because I would prefer to move to rotate my paper, and then my hands are interfering with the tripod. I think at some stage I will have this temptation of rotating the paper. But you see, these are the panels which are aligned horizontally, and you can see that when I apply this kind of a stroke, it gives an impression of the same. And then, yes, these are vertical wooden panels. Yes, I think this had to happen at some point of time. Great. Look how nice it looks. And again, no hard edges. All these hard edges are for the final stage of the painting. When you really want to differentiate one object from another, that's when you use a little bit of those hard edges. Okay, some introduction of some French ultramarine blue. And you see, I applied pure French ultramarine, but because on the paper I already have some burnt sienna, the two pigments diffuse into each other to create a nice effect. So that is the front side. And then with the round brush, you darken the bottom side of the barn and define the grass that is closer to the ground. So the grass is creating some kind of a shadow on the wall, and that we have to pick up at this stage. And there are crevices, there are cracks. I'm painting them really dark. The wall is still not dry, but I still managed to put some strokes, vertical strokes, and then some horizontal strokes. I'm defining the walls a little bit. You know, I forgot to tell you, I'm assuming that the light is coming from the right top side. So my as I change the plane, I'll have to introduce a fairly darker tone. Yes, in this region I'll be putting some dark colors. That will turn the plane. There's a sharp edge. Yeah. So we mix burnt sienna, blue together, and then we put it there. It should be at least 3-4 shades darker than the front side of the barn. You see how nice it looks? Since the light is coming from the right side, this region is anyway in the shadows. I think I should refine these edges. See, actually I had been telling that I do not need hard edges. I do not need hard edges, but you see, now I'm trying to get these hard edges to define my shapes. Okay, now we go to the roof. Now the roof is curved and it's made up of different kinds of material. I didn't have the time to actually inspect the actual material, but I can use my artistic license to paint it the way I want. I'm just damping the roof with a cobalt blue and ultramarine mixture. I'm defining the shape. Yes, I think that is nice. And then I will probably introduce a reddish color towards the bottom side of the roof. Yes, actually this is cadmium red and burnt sienna, and I'm trying to follow the contour of this roof. It takes some effort to create the kind of intensity you want in watercolor. In oil you can put a dark color, and since these dark colors are really opaque, you can create a very dark effect using just one layer of color. In watercolor you have to put several layers of glaze to get the desired intensity. And then introduce some more blue, let them diffuse on the paper. Cool. I had an impression that the roof that I saw was some metallic in nature, had some rust, and it was surprising to see some fibers on top of it. I do not know what it was. I should have done a little bit more research before diving into paint it, but I think I can be forgiven for that. It's just what I felt that I'm trying to paint here. So I'm almost done with the roof. I should let it dry. I'll now turn my attention to the silo on the left. This is cylindrical in shape and this is used to store grains, and I have to create the impression of this roundness. So we do, as we have been doing it throughout this session, we dampen. We want to work wet on wet, so we dampen this region with clear water, and then it's a pity that I'm unable to show you how I'm mixing my color. Probably I'll need 2 cameras to do so. Okay, I turn my paper, rotate it, and then introduce a lighter, warmer color on the right side. And as the paper is wet, you can see uh, I'm getting a very diffused edge on the inner side. And yes, while it is still wet, I introduce some darker tones from the left towards the right. Yeah, I should put a still darker tone to differentiate this object from the sky. Remember, we have to create contrast in our painting or in photograph to make them work. So I'm introducing darker tones. It is a mixture of purple and burnt sienna and ultramarine blue. So this is the first stage. After this there will be several more stages to define the shape and the texture of the silo. Trying to blend these colors precisely. So I'm improvising on the accidents that I created. I'm defining the shape of the grass close by. Now by doing this, I'm pushing the silo back and bringing the foreground closer to us. Now it's more defined, the texture of the ground. You can see now I am doing just the opposite. I'm trying to create well-defined sharp edges in contrast to what I was doing in the first stage. Okay, the dome is going to cast a shadow. I still have to create a rounded effect. Let's see how we do it. Yes, this gives an impression of curviness. And yes, introduce a burnt sienna, which is going to mix with the darker violet color on paper, and it also creates texture. Look how beautiful it looks, right? It's purely fluid mechanics. I have many friends who have been working in the area of fluid mechanics and CFD. The CFD actually stands for computational fluid dynamics, but we always refer to the field as colorful fluid dynamics. There's a lot of colorful fluid in action at the moment, and the light is striking the right side of this dome, so I should leave some bright paper showing through. There are certain designs on this dome. I do not know what it is. I'm not even sure what it is made up of. Actually, when I'm traveling with my camera, I spend a lot of time researching on the different objects. But this barn, although I love them a lot, I have not been able to spend much time doing research. I know what I should do next time I visit a place full of beautiful barns. And you must have noticed that the first stage was fairly quick. I finished the major part of the painting in just 15-20 minutes, and it's just the refinement process that is taking so much time. Just imagine, the painting looks almost complete, but I still have more than half an hour left to refine each shape. Okay, now I go to this final stage where I'm defining all these shapes. These are all hard edges now. A lot of hard edges. Now these dark lines, these are going to differentiate this structure from the background. Actually, when I was painting the sky, it was very intentional to make the sky lighter close to the horizon, because I knew that a dark, much darker barn was coming up soon. Also in the sky on the right side, it's the dark color that is popping the lighter clouds. This roof, I think it requires more color. That's a good way to increase the intensity and make it a little bit reddish and brownish in color. The blue color is not looking quite fine. Yes, this is better. This is much better. So see, I'm going in stages. I could not have achieved this same color intensity with just one layer. I have to go in different layers. These watercolor paints are highly transparent in nature, so it's only through layering that you can get a desired intensity. There are these gaps between the wooden panels, so the inside of the barn is visible, and since there is no light inside, it has to be really dark, and you get the dark intensity through the process of layering. Defining this while doing detail works. I'm not going to paint each and every panel. I'm just going to give an impression. You see, I paint a few panels, and that is how it's amazing how our brain works. Our brain is going to fill in the gaps. It just needs suggestion. Our brain just needs suggestion, and it can make up the whole story itself. So you see, in this painting, I'm just creating some impressions. I'm not painting anything specifically. Like the clouds, I didn't paint each and every cloud. I just introduced some colors, allowed them to diffuse with each other, and then I get an impression of cloud. Similarly, on this barn, I'm just presenting some shades on the paper, and it just makes my brain think that it's wooden panels and there are gaps in between, and then since there are gaps, it should be dark. There is no light inside, and then there is an open door, and I think I will make that even darker. And these windows are still masked, but there is some space that should be much darker, and I'll soon put color into that. But this is the gaps. These are the gaps between the panels. It should be fairly dark. This region should be very dark, almost black, but we do not use black. I make my black by mixing ultramarine with brown, purple, and Van Dyke brown. Yes. Look how it makes the painting alive, just this dark color. I think this dark color has increased the dynamic range of my painting. Yes, you know, when I will remove, I'm painting the window, but when I will remove the masking fluid towards the end, I will get crisp white window frames. Then I can shade them a little bit. That will break the monotonicity there on the walls. These protrusions on the roof, they also have some well-defined dimension, and it's time to refine them. I need to figure out a way to show how I'm mixing colors. Although if you are trying to copy this painting, you can use any color you want. The only important thing is to make sure that you use the correct value in your painting. Regions which appear blue in my painting can be orange in yours. But if you maintain the correct value system, the painting will work. Okay, this is something interesting. You know, this is a special kind of brush. It's called a rake brush, and I mean, this is excellent for painting furs of animals or for creating these kinds of texture effects. So it has many points. It is not a simple flat brush. It's a flat brush but with multiple tips. I have posted an image of this brush on my website. A brush manufacturer gave me this brush and asked me for the feedback. I think this is one of the brushes very effective and created these kinds of textures fairly quickly. You can see how quickly I have finished almost half of the roof. When I didn't have this brush, I was using a number 2 round sable brush, and then it would take at least 10 times more time than I take with this brush. So that's done, and I think this brush will be more effective on creating texture on this area also. Look how quickly it is creating this texture. Just 2-3 strokes and you have an impression of roundness. Move around when we are painting. Do not concentrate on one area. Consider many different regions at the same time. Then you will be able to maintain a harmony. Just defining the shapes a little bit more. I think the dome that is there on the structure has some design. Yeah, okay, I think this kind of impression. I do not want to be very particular about this design, but I have to put something there. It's almost done. There's just some refinement works, shadows, and then improving the contrast. Now I will start painting the building which is in between these two structures, and the roof will start with reddish color. This roof is in probably it is in shadow, but there is some light falling on it. It cannot be very bright. But we need some warm tones. drop in some burnt sienna and define the shape. That will do for the moment. On the front side we have a door, and you can see this masking fluid which is still there, and this will have the same value as the front side of the barn. The burnt sienna and a little mix tinge of ultramarine. And as I am painting the front side, I'm also defining the grass in the ground. Is done. And on the right side again I have an extension of this barn. There is a big entrance which will be fairly dark. There are also some wooden structures, and of course there is a tractor standing outside this barn. Maybe the tractor is parked inside, and therefore we have this big door. Painting is like a storytelling. There are lots of things that you do not need to paint, but everybody is looking at your painting can relate to it. And then the roof, and then this roof has to be much brighter in color, because this is, I mean, it is under direct light. And nothing is casting shadow on top of it. Introduce some very dark color because there is no light inside. From this stage onward, I'll just be increasing the contrast and refining shapes, putting some windows, doors. Once it is dry, I'll have to come back again with a darker layer. And also I have this hay bale which is still not complete. Then the tractor on the right side, which needs some refinement. Of course it is untouched yet. I would like to make it a bit bright. It's a dilemma. If I make it too bright, I think this will catch all the attention, and that's not what I want. So let us not make it very intense. Just give a suggestion of something like a tractor standing there, not spending too much time in detail work. That is better. I think that is good enough. We do not need to do much detailed work there. And the steering is also in place, and the front side should be a little darker. Well, that's good enough. That's good enough. Now it's the time for the hay bales. Actually, I think most of the hay bales have been kept inside this barn, and there are just two remaining outside. I don't know why that had been left outside. And then we come back to the front side of the barn, because that's where we need to focus now. Refine as much as possible. All the cracks, crevices, dark colors, everything should come up there. That is the center of attraction. Make the windows darker so that I have very high contrast when the masking fluid is removed. I'm making a few impressions of these gaps between the wooden panels. all these a small touch of blue, burnt sienna, and dark tones. This building is coming alive. Darken this frame of the roof. That makes it looks how it improves the overall contrast in the painting. Let us rotate it. It's difficult to make nice curves while still recording at the same time. So you will have to bear with me. So here we have a well-defined roof. I just increase the darkness in the openings, doors, windows. I think I want to make it even older than I saw it and more weathered. Now I'm a little clueless now what to do with this painting, so probably that is a good indicator for me to stop. It's very easy to overdo it, and in a watercolor the minimum is better. I have an impression that I'm getting clueless as to what I should do more, and that's a good time to stop. So a few more strokes, and I think a little bit of texture on the background, and then I should call it a painting. Generally, after I finish a painting, I keep it in front of me for a few days and weeks, and sometime months before I come back to it and add or subtract a few things. I think the same thing will happen with this painting, and it's a very normal process. I'll just make last few touches, and then I'll sign it and frame it. And that looks quite vibrant. That looks quite complete too. Make a few impressions of bushes, shrubs. Same on the left side. I'll add a few more shadows just at the interface of the building and the grass. But it's a little wet at the moment, so I'll have to wait for the painting to dry before I make those final shadows. In the meantime, I'll sign this painting. So that is almost done. I hope that you enjoyed the video and learned something today. Go ahead, give this amazing medium a try.